In this lecture, we're going to cover macros in Rhino. Now, a macro is simply a list of commands, one after the other, and most softwares have that capability, including Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Word. And we'll see that actually a lot of Rhino is built, the interface is built off of macros. In fact, all of the commands in the command window can be used to create macros. Some of the tools that we can use are in Tools, Commands, Macro Editor, Command History, and Paste from Clipboard and Read from File. But the command history shows you the last commands that you've done, and some of them will show you some of those commands that you can use in the macro. If we close that, go to Tools, Commands, Macro Editor. Yours might show up as something really tiny like this, but you just want to expand it out so you write things, see things bigger. And a simple one is to put the exclamation point. Exclamation point simply means to stop any other scripts that are going on or any other processing at the same time. And let's just do circle, and we'll hit run and see what happens. And we see that it runs the command circle, and it asks us for the center of the circle, the radius, etc. But we can type these things in by saying, let's say 0, 0, 0 for the center, and then hit run again. And now it only asks us for the radius. Right. So we can hit another one here. We can put a 5, and it will create a circle. We could create a set of these, and it will create a set like that. It's pretty simple to create these. Alright, and what you'll find is that most of the buttons here in this interface are actually all of the buttons are using the macro system. You can hold down Shift and right click, and you'll see that there's an editor for the button. And down in the bottom left and bottom right there will be the macro, in this case show on OSNAP and show are the commands that we're running in this one. Here we have pan, here we have rectangle, and you can select any of these and they should all have some macro associated with it. So here's cap, here's edit. So make sure to hold down Shift and right click to pull that up so you can see some of the example ones. Another way that you can know what the commands are is to go to the help. The help in Rhino is really good compared to other software. So go to help topics, and down here in the scripting there's a section called macro editor. And there are all other associated files, so don't just go to the center and stay here, but make sure to check the rest of the entire page here, because there's some really useful information on Rhino scripting, and this particular page is about macros. It explains, what the exclamation point is, the underscore for the language, so there's different versions of the word circle in different languages, and underscore forces it to be in whatever language you're using. Using the hyphen in front will suppress the dialog, which means the dialog doesn't come up, but you have to enter in some information in order to fill in those options. And then there's some other things here. There's also some example similar to what we've done here. We've got this circle, and then there's a couple other example pieces that you can use for creating macro, and even some example scripts here. So we can copy this, can go back into the macro editor, paste it in, run it, and it'll create those two curves in 3 dimensions for us. There's also some useful things for controlling the screen, and you'll find a lot of macros on the web are more set towards controlling the screen or controlling some settings, because macros don't really allow a lot of logic to occur easily. So a lot of it is just for setting up the screen, or setting up something for the construction, or redrawing, setting up the camera for rendering, things like that. Alright. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you an example of a script, a macro script that I've got, and I'm going to load it in different parts. Here, actually, I'll just type it. I'm going to have this, and then I'm going to have select all, and I'm going to have delete. So every time I run this, it's going to select everything in the scene and delete, which is good for if you want to keep testing things over and over again without having to build up the same geometry on top of it and having to delete it. Now the first thing I'm going to draw is a circle at -2, 1, 0 with a radius of 1. You can see it draws a circle here. And then I'm going to select, I'll add that part in. Then I'm going to have another circle at 2, 1, 0 with a radius of 1. So now I'll have two circles there. And what I'm drawing here is a smiley face. So I'll have another circle at 0, 0, 0 with a radius of 5. Okay. Then I'm going to have a smile. So I'm going to have an arc that starts, and sometimes you may not know what the command is, so just type in, or what's available, just type in arc up in the command line at the top, hit enter, and you'll see, okay, the next thing needs to be center of arc. There's some other options that you can use, that you can choose these options, but and that's if you put the dash into it, you're able to control those options, but I'm just going with the defaults here. So we're going to put a 0, 0, 0 for the center, and then the start of the arc. Going to be somewhere down here, and then some degree. Okay, so with that in mind, I'm going to have the arc start at 0, 0, 0, and sorry, the center of the arc will be 0, 0, 0. The start of it will be -0, -3, 0, which will be sort of at the bottom here, and then I'm going to go -40 degrees, so it's going to go off to the left. So when we run it, we get half of a smile. Copy this, make it +40, and get the other half of the smile. So now we get a smiley face. Alright, now what we want to do here is we want to take this and we want to make this the base of the pattern, and we want to use this to copy and do all kinds of different translations and rotations and scaling to it. So one way you can do that without having any for loops or variables is to store things in different layers. Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these parts, and then I'm going to store it into a layer. Now to select them, I need to select each one as it's created. So I'm going to select last the circle. So if I run that, it'll only have that one selection. The problem here is that if I do select last on the second circle, well, it's not really a problem, but sometimes you don't have control, and you can actually add some more specification here. Select last, no, and enter. It's going to get the same thing. So let's just go ahead and do select last, and we're going to do that after each time we create geometry. So at the end, we should have a fully selected smiley face. Alright, now once we have that selected, what we want to do is we want to copy to layer. It's one of the commands that you can find. And if we do this, it's going to bring up a dialog box. Well, we don't want to have to click any dialog boxes. So we want to try and get rid of that manual selection. We're trying to automate a lot of this. So instead, what we do is we put a hyphen in front of copy to layer. But it needs more information. Specifically, what is the name of the what are we trying to, well, if we bring it up here, we'll have two selections, new layer and set current equals no. So what we want to do is we want to have new layer be that one, and then it'll ask us for a name. So here, the option we'll add in here is new layer, and the name we're just going to call base. So this is my base object. So if I run this, here it's created a layer, and on base is a copy of the smiley face. Alright. So now that I've got this copy, what I want to do is I want to delete the one that's in the default layer, in the beginning layer. So select none to clear any selection that I happen to have. And then I want to select layer. Now if I do this, it's going to ask me again for a dialog, so I don't want this dialog. So I'm going to put in a dash here, and the input that you will find that you will need will be to put in the name of the layer, and the name of the layer I'm using is default. Right, so it just selects what's on the default layer, and then we're going to delete it. So run and delete. So now there's only one copy of this in the base layer. Now what we're going to do is take a copy of the one in the base layer and put it into a layer called working, and then we're going to move it around, and then we're going to copy it to a final layer. So we'll have these three layers: base, working, and final. So let me go ahead and do this. So we'll select none. Each time we do this, we want to select none. Now we want to select layer, the base layer, and we want to make a copy of it. Copy to layer, new layer, and it's okay if it's not a new layer, but if we don't put in new layer, it might throw some errors. Actually, it won't even throw errors; it'll just stop. And then select none. So after we've made that copy, so we want to make sure we're not going to edit the base layer at all. Now we want to make sure we only select the layer that is called working, the new one that we created. Now if we do that, we'll see that there's two layers here, but the working one is the one that was selected. Now we've got this thing, this working one, and let's just do a move, a simple move. And in move you need a start point and an end point, so I'm just going to do 2, 3, 4, something like that. Right, and you see it's moved this one that's in working, the working copy on the working layer. And now if that's all we're going to do to it, then we should select layer, working, copy to layer, new layer, final. Alright, so now we've taken that, and now we've got a third layer here called final. But we've still got some version in working, and we need to clear out the working, similar to what we did, how we cleared out default. Alright, so let's clear the working layer. So select none, then select layer, working, and then delete. Alright, so that's going to mean that there's nothing in the working layer. There is something in the final layer though. And let's just copy and paste this again. We'll take this whole selection here, copy it, and paste it. Maybe make some extra enters so we or line returns so that we know where we're changing things. And instead of a move, let's do a rotate. And instead of it 0, 0, 0, we could do 0, 1, 0. And then instead of another point for rotate, we need a center point and we need an amount. So let's say 140 degrees. Right. And so that will give us a second one. Let's make it a little further out. Right. So we can get more of these patterns. And you could build up more and more of these. You could take, say, this final, and it could be maybe a base 2, so you can make pattern of pattern of pattern if you wanted to make something more complex. And we can do it one more time. And we'll do, instead of a rotate, we'll do a scale. Again, scales need a center, and they need an amount, so we'll just double it. Alright? So we get this a 2. Now, the last thing that you would want to know about that you should know about macros is how to create a button. Alright, so I'm going to select all of these, everything that we have in the macro editor, and we're going to create a new toolbar that's going to have a new button in it. We could actually modify these buttons, but you probably don't want to do that because they're there for a reason. So to create a new toolbar, we go to Tools, Toolbar Layout. You'll see there's a whole bunch of tools, and these are all the same ones that happen that come up if you right-click here. So Tools, Toolbar Layout. Tools, Toolbar Layout. And in this window, you've got File, Toolbar, Help. Go to Toolbar New. Toolbar New, and it'll have some name. It's best not to use, let's say, my toolbar. It's best not to use spaces. You should get in the habit of that. And we'll leave everything else to default, and it's going to put it into the Rhino directory, into something called default.tb, and TB stands for toolbar. It's just a place where it's going to store those. You click OK, and we've got this new one that comes up here, my toolbar. So I'm going to close that. You could also make a new collection if you wanted to, and save it there as well. Alright, so we're going to make this, it's got a button on it. It's just one button, that's all. And we can shift right click and in the left mouse button we just paste everything that we had in the macro editor, and we'll say let's say make smileys and show text only. You can also load in some bitmaps or edit the bitmap. Alright, so we can show bitmap and text. Click OK, and now we've got our toolbar, which we could even put in here. And whenever we click it, it makes all the smileys and shows everything. Alright. So now you know how to use macros, create macros, and create your own macro button. This ends this tutorial.